We've got you covered all season long. Welcome to the BCSN Nation podcast, powered by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Here it is, Season 4, Episode 1 of the BCSN Nation podcast, powered by Buffalo Wild Wings. Let's make sure the button still works.
Let's go, sports bar.
It does.
Good news, it does. Brandon Carnes here, Justin Feldkamp, and look who's joined us for football season. We got Mason Lowry in the house. I mentioned it, football season's here, podcast season is here. What are you guys excited about now that Friday Night Lights are back starting this week, Justin?
Tailgate is one of the best shows we got on BCSN, and just the environment. We proud of what we built over the last 4 years, and the fact that we get student section and cheerleaders and the band and teachers and administrators, principals, all being a part of that show. It's a lot of fun, and it kind of sets the tone for a Friday night each and every Friday night for 10, 11, 12, 13 weeks. So looking forward to a new season for Tailgate, but just in general.
Mason, you're up.
Well, I love getting to spend a lot of time with my old pal John Gibson, whom I only see for like 13 weeks every fall, but I love the guy and I love working with him. I love the feeling of the first couple of weeks of football season in particular because everything's new. We're all learning so much about everybody, but also I'll be at Central Catholic on Friday, for example. Sure. Walking through the Central Catholic student section up to the press box is such a unique experience because there's so many kids. They're so excited. They always know who we are because we always tape our opens and everything right in front of them. So they always seem to know our names. Hey, Mason, John, welcome back. And that's just a neat little thing that I look forward to like every year. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, it's kind of where I was going to. Those first couple weeks of football season, everybody kind of figuring out who they are, learning their identities offensively, defensively, how they're going to match up with everybody. If you haven't seen our preview series over on our YouTube page, make sure you go check that out. Get yourself even more ready for football season rolling up. And make sure you're right here every single Wednesday for a brand new episode of the BCSN Nation podcast, of course, powered by Buffalo Wild Wings, right here on BCSN or anywhere you get your podcasts or bcsnnation.com/podcast. I forgot how out of breath I get doing these. And, of course, make sure you follow at BCSN Sports so you don't miss anything from Wednesday to Wednesday and especially on a Friday. And now here we go. Let's get into league previews. We will start this thing off with the big league, the NLL. We'll start in the Buckeye side, some teams you want to watch, some players on those teams, and then I want each of you to make a pick for the Buckeye and a pick for the Cardinal. We'll obviously carry that on as we go through. Justin, if you want to get rolling on the Buckeye side of things.
Yeah, with Anthony Wayne, Whitmer, Perrysburg, I think it's going to be a 3-horse race with them that has traditionally, since the new look NLL was created, that's kind of been the 3 heavy hitters at the top. But with the quarterbacks, we always talk about new coaches, but I've noticed with the quarterbacks, yes, you're not on 10-year contracts like NFL players and stuff like that, but keeping in mind that players who have been a starter for more than one season, just listing them off, and Anthony Wayne, Grant Kinney, Mason 𝗦𝗫𝗏, Ryan Montgomery at Findlay, Owen Espinosa at Napoleon, Josh Chackett's at Perrysburg, Will Macy's at Southview, Brady Ford at Whitmer, throw in Chase Miller at Ottawa Hills there. Just long. A number of quarterbacks who are now graduated and gone, but you got all these new fresh faces. Porter Brungard, the coach's son of Andy Brungard and Anthony Wayne. Brungard's been there for a decade now, Mason, and the players know the culture. They expect the high expectations. So you got that. They're 22-4 in the last 2 years. They got a new defensive coordinator coming from BGSU and Steve Morrison with Scott Leffler departed with the Falcons. So Steve Morrison going to be taking over the DC duties at Anthony Wayne, but with Whitmer, new head coach there, and Justin Keller. Perrysburg, you got Dirk Connor, who's been there for 5 years. They only have 15 seniors. They're going to be breaking in a new quarterback, Brady Maxwell. So those 3 at the top, interesting.
Yeah, I tend to lean on, when you talk about who might win this league, I tend to think of it in terms of who's got the most known quantities and at what position group. And I'm kind of leaning towards Whitmer a little bit because of those 3 fantastic running backs that are back. And they're all a little bit different to one another. Joey Morales and Jaden Jones and Jamon Holmes. Yeah. And yes, new quarterback, sophomore and Carter Bourne is going to start. And you don't have Carter Lowe anymore, who's down at Ohio State, of course. But you still got Kyler Koopmans, who's a very good high school offensive lineman to anchor that line. I have a feeling they're going to lean really heavily on those 3 running backs. And when I think back to a lot of the really good Whitmer football teams over the last 10, 15 years, it's been run the ball from the spread. And you can rotate all three of those guys in. Some of them are better catching the ball out of the backfield than others.
Yeah.
Really promising group of senior wide receivers. I think of a guy like Isaiah Hayward who can really stretch the field. They always seem to find at Whitmer one solid tight end. They'll run that little look-in pass that's like a quick tight end screen, and they'll catch somebody totally off guard. And Justin Keller, there are schools in our footprint where it seems so important, kind of like you would hear about a Michigan man, quote unquote, and what that even means anymore, I can't say, given what we've learned fairly recently. Whitmer, along with Clay, I think, are two schools, and Clay went a different direction when they made their new coach hire. You need somebody that really understands a molecular level what that school district is like and what it means to be the head ball coach at Whitmer. Justin Keller is a lifer. I've joked
to be more tied in,
I've joked with Rhett Boyd for years and years about how Rhett Boyd and his friend group, it feels like the guys on King of the Hill. Like they went to high school together. They were high school teammates. They have lived very close to each other, and they're still best friends. It's such a unique community. Justin Keller is a total slam dunk hire for that place. And I want to just Porter Brungard real quick at Anthony Wayne. Sophomore, varsity experience, albeit in running clock games in the second half. He is the coach's son of all coaches' sons. He's going to step in, hit the ground running right away, I think.
Of course, you mentioned Clay, right? They slide up from the Cardinal side of things into the Buckeye with new coach Pennington. You've got Landon Eckleberry coming from Findlay over there. A lot of questions and answers set to be figured out at Findlay. For Coach Stephen Adams, Northview, new head coach Barry Bach comes back, the old DC, making his way, looking to turn things around. And in the Cardinal now, a couple quick takes for the Cardinal: Southview, Napoleon, Springfield, Fremont Ross, Bowling Green.
Southview has two quarterbacks that they're looking at, Jackson Hesse and then Tom Hench. Different styles of quarterbacks. I think you'll see both of them play at some point during this season. Hench is a sophomore, Hesse a junior. Southview went 3-7 last year, coming off the Cardinal Division title the year before, so they're looking for higher developments, more wins, etc. I think this could be a three-horse race, just like the Buckeye Division. I'll give you a Southview, Napoleon, and Fremont Ross. I think those are the top three teams. Hard to pick at this point in the season who has an edge, just because there's so many teams with so many unanswered questions at this point. Yes, that's what preseason and scrimmages are for, but still, until you get the real Friday night bright lights at 7 o'clock, BCSN cameras on the sidelines and up in the press box area, that is when you're going to find the difference makers. Tyler Swery, I think that they have proven that they can progressively develop throughout a season. Remember last year, they went on a playoff run after playing that challenging schedule throughout the regular season. They got George Agers back, 1,300 yards,
Monster.
24 touchdowns. They'll count on him, and he's been playing kind of second fiddle because that senior class that Napoleon had, it was a special senior class. Similar to Clay, just like they did last year. Springfield, they're going to need momentum. 2-8 last year. Those wins were over Rogers and Northview. Fremont Ross, Caden Maley going to Ball State now. They're going to have 8 starters back on defense, but they're going to have some growing pains offensively. And then BG, they're going to have a test right out of the gate at Perrysburg in week 1. Coach Sean Kiss now in his second year. They're going to be young, but I like Antoine Lawrence and running back. I think more than 4 wins would be a success for them. They're going to have a challenging schedule, but I like the potential that QB Grant Gillespie has.
This is the only league, I think, in our area where you cannot write anybody off going into the season. I genuinely have no stinking clue who's going to win this out of the 5. George Eggers is probably the best individual player in this league, and they're probably the team to beat based on, albeit having lost that big senior class and Trey Rubenstein, et cetera, that Justin mentioned. Owen Espinoza as well. Southview maybe went through their growing pains last year a little bit because they struggled to replace Isaac Sexton, who was so good.
Tough job. Paul MacArthur, though.
I'm going to throw a name at you that could surprise a lot of people, and that is Gabe Gregory.
Absolutely.
Who was outstanding as a sophomore at Springfield last year, and doing it on a team that really struggled. And they were young. They had one freshman that started on the offensive line, I know.
Was all league, too.
And Gabe was, yes, he was. And Gabe was fantastic. And credit to him for staying at Springfield, too, because in this day and age, when guys leave places all the time and you try and find a better fit, he's still there going into his junior year, and I salute that. If they're going to win appreciably more games than they did last year. He's going to be the guy to carry him. Helps, too, because Sam Arredondo, their new head coach, is a guy who is in the building there. Sure. And that, I think, does make a big difference. Previous coach wasn't.
Yeah, Coach Arredondo, 10 years an assistant, 1 year as assistant over at Whitmer, now takes over as a head coach there. Give you one little tidbit. He said, we're going to play anybody, anywhere, anytime. It could be a parking lot, a grass field. He's ready to go, and he's instilling that toughness mentality. I went and talked to them. Excited to see what happens at Springfield. Now we're excited to see what happens in the CHSL. We'll get to the Knights and the Titans at first. We got a little bit more about the Irish later. But let's talk about the bounce-back season that Coach 𝗦𝗨𝗀 led St. Francis to last year. And now Joe Horn steps in at St. John's, coming from Anthony Wayne, trying to flip that program the same way Coach 𝗦𝗨𝗀 did at St. Francis.
Yeah, at St. Francis, the boys on Bancroft, I was actually over there earlier this week doing a feature with Jermaine Polk. He is our first top recruit. He's a Rutgers commit, defensive lineman, also going to play some offensive lineman. But, yeah, you said 1-9 to 8-4 with a playoff win. Got a trivia question about St. Francis coming up on game day tailgate.
We love
little
trivia.
Teaser involving the Knights, but they got a target on their back now. So that's the change for St. Francis. Okay, you're not going to surprise anybody when you're going 8-4. You will surprise somebody when you are coming off a 1-9 season.
Sure.
So that's a totally different mindset that you got to have, being the hunted instead of the hunter. So 8-2 in the regular season, I think, is a possibility. They don't have as difficult of a schedule as Central Catholic, but
right.
I looked at that 10-week in a row for St. Francis, and they got some tough road to hoe on the road. In week 2, they go on a trip to Bishop Dwenger in Fort Wayne. They played some tough teams last year. Yes, they went 6-6, but had some playoff ones. But St. Francis is going to have a little bit more of a challenge. And their quarterback situation, Coach 𝗦𝗨𝗀 told me that against Wade on Friday, definitely 2, possibly 3 quarterbacks are going to see the playing field because no one has separated
as Corey
themselves
Swartz
yet.
leaves.
So I think that's the question mark. That is the question mark for St. Francis.
But you know what helps with that situation as you go here? Boy, having Rocco Pillarelli and Eli Beal in the backfield will take some pressure off a quarterback. Maybe the 2 best running backs in the area with George Eggers and that trio over at Whitmer, too.
You can certainly make a case for that. It's going to be interesting to me to see how Rocco adapts to playing against much bigger and more athletic guys than, with all intended respect to the TAC. It's a totally different ball game, so he's going to have to adapt to that. Is he available all 10 weeks? Do we know?
I was just about to say, I was going to interject. I've been told it's definitely not definitely, but he will play 5. You got to sit out the second half of the season just like in any other sport. I've been told that he is appealing that. The family is appealing that, but I would not get my hopes up if I'm St. Francis trying to get that full season.
Well, and if they don't have great faith in the appeal, then what you can maybe do is those first 5 weeks.
Give Eli Beal a little rest.
Yeah, exactly. Lean a bit heavier on Rocco. I think the guy they're really going to miss, and Corey Swartz was a really good quarterback.
Sure.
Raheem Brown was the, in case of emergency, break glass guy on offense and
defense.
Just a total stud in the secondary, too. And I can't imagine they've got another fresh-out-the-oven Raheem Brown type to step in and fill that role. So I would think, and especially with Jermaine Polk being potentially so dominant on both lines, lots of run of the football with Rocco and Eli, that will give whoever ends up being the quarterback a bit of time to acclimate themselves. And for a young-ish group, a team like Waite, in week 1 going over to play at Mollenkopf, you can not to be unkind to Waite, but you can work on yourselves a bit, which is exactly what they need.
And then for St. John's, like I said, Coach Horn steps in. He talked about one of the biggest challenges for those guys being to adjust to his new system, and only 7 returning starters for the Titans, so a lot to figure out there as well.
I think that their quarterback, Coy Hammock, is going to be able to take a step forward. He was in a 2-quarterback system consistently.
Him and Polowitz last year.
It was difficult to get any rhythm or get hot type of deal. So I think with Coach Joe Horn, he's going to be with Coy Hammock, and I think you could see significant improvement. I don't know if that's going to be dramatically in the win-loss column because they went 1-9 and got a win in week 10 last year, if memory serves me correctly.
A dominant one, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that they could increase that win total, but it's going to be challenging with their non-conference schedule. They play Anthony Wayne in week 2, and then they also play in the difficult Detroit Catholic League.
You know, not having a ton of returning starters is maybe a blessing for Coach Horn because it is a different system that he's going to run compared to what Larry McDaniel did. So everybody's new. Sometimes you see a new coach come into a situation where everything is super established. You've got a ton of returning starters, and they struggle to adapt to the new way that the new coach wants to play. So it's kind of a clean slate for everybody. I kind of feel for Coach Horn in the sense that a lot of observers are going to look at St. John's and say, well, Josh Linkey did this last year at St. Francis and turned that around so quickly. So anything less than 8-2 is going to be a disaster. It might be a bit more of a slow build, but Joe, with his reputation, I think that's an excellent hire on Airport.
All right, we'll keep this ball rolling. We'll be right back after 30 seconds from Buffalo Wild Wings. Hit it, Cisco. Boy, I miss saying
Buffalo
that.
Wild Wings, buy one, get one free. Boneless Thursdays saved me so much cash. I can finally do everything I've ever wanted in life, like skydiving. You ready? No, this was a mistake, a huge mistake. I want to go back. Go! Yeah, I'll probably just use the money I saved to get more buy one, get one free boneless wings at B-Dubs. No brainer. Buffalo Wild Wings. Let's go sports bar.
At participating locations, not valid with other offers or discounts. See website or app for details.
All right, we are off now to the City League. New faces all around the City League. Rogers, Bowser, Waite, Woodward, all with new coaches. A lot of them familiar faces, though, at least. E.J. Tucker taking over at Rogers. Coach Aaron Peacock comes from Waite over to Bowser. Waite gets Russ Jennings, the head wrestling coach, comes in. And then you've got, name slips.
Brandon McNeil.
A lot of names here. You can see even I'm getting confused. Go ahead, gentlemen, with your breakdowns of City League.
I think it's Lima in start. It's theirs to win and or lose. I think that has been the case over the last 2 seasons, just looking at their roster, who they're returning. I think that's a safe bet once again. You mentioned the 4 teams with new coaches. Start was 7-3 in the regular season last year. I think this year 8-2 is possible if they can get over the hump with some of those non-conference victories. I think they're going to handle, in some cases, with other opponents within the City League rather easily. The final game last year between the 2 Spartans teams decided the City League title, and Lima Senior had been dominating teams, but their strength of schedule was a little weaker, and Start proved that they could take down Lima Senior, and then Lima Senior got beat pretty badly in the first round of the postseason. So I think with what Coach James has done at Start, I think he has enough offensive weapons. Marvon Thompson, one that comes to my mind as far as who can get down the field quickly. Offensive line could be a little tricky, a work in progress, and building momentum will be key for them.
That Lima Senior system is so interesting because it's like something out of backyard football where it's spread everybody out and just pick teams apart. Yeah. And it is so tough especially when you don't have a ton of depth in the secondaries in particular to stand up to that for very, very long. Yeah. Start was able to last year, and good on them because they really cleaned up against Lima Senior. That game will be in Lima this year in Week 10, and that will almost certainly be the City League decider. One team that does kind of intrigue me, and I guess it's because it's the only other school that has a returning head coach, is Scott. So Richard Davis is there for year 2, and they returned, 9 starters on both sides of the ball. So the expectation for what needs to be done in order to win games has kind of already been set. Yeah. When you look at a lot of the quotes from the other new head coaches in the league, it's we need to establish the importance of hard work and what it's going to take to win. So then maybe in year 2 they can make that leap. Scott might be able to make that leap this year and maybe finish kind of best of the rest, so to speak. But I can't imagine anybody surpassing Lima or Start.
Yeah, both of those 2 teams to be dealt with as they have been the last 2 years as the top 2 teams in the City League. We'll keep this rolling now to the Northern Buckeye Conference. Here we go. It is, again, a similar situation. Can anybody catch Oak Harbor? They're looking for the three-peat. And I tell you what, if you watched this podcast last year, I rode and died with the Maumee Panthers. Coach Karchner now in year 3. The culture's set, right? The expectation is set, like you just talked about with some of those City League teams. It's, can you now live up to what is the new set standard and the new culture with Coach Karchner at Maumee? Well,
what I like about this schedule within the NBC, weeks 9 and 10. Weeks 9 and 10, weeks 9 and 10. Maumee is at Oak Harbor, and then Maumee is at home against Eastwood. So those 3 teams will be battling it out in some form or fashion when the season is toward the end of the regular season. So as long as everybody stays healthy, which has not happened because we saw Eastwood's quarterback, Ludhart, go down already. His younger brother is going to step into that role. So you're going to have to battle some adversity at some point during a high school football season. But with Maumee and the 𝗏𝗏𝗵𝗁 boys, I think they had a ton of gained experience last year.
Yes.
They made the postseason. They got a home game. Game day tailgate was there. Yes, they lost to Lexington, but still, when you're a coach who's building and building, you'll take any type of experience that you can get, and they got it.
You get third-year starter now in Ben Kubitz,
Yeah.
brother Will Kubitz. A lot of returning parts, but there's a lot of replacement to do for production there.
Yeah, and then you look at 𝗏𝗏, go Rockets, class of 2007.
What a homer.
Well, they don't return a lot of their skill position guys, but the offensive line is very, very good. And I think if you were to ask 100 coaches, 95 to 100 would say,
I'll take the trenches.
I'll take the trenches and break in the skill guys as we go, rather than the other way around. There's more known quantities with Maumee in terms of names we remember, although no more Cody Wolf, who was kind of their Eli Beal, their safety valve. They're going to have to find somebody to replace that production, but you can't argue against that twin connection, right, between a quarterback and a wide receiver. And the job that Coach Karchner has done there is just to turn them around completely in such little time is so impressive.
And I was able to go to Rossford in some of those season previews we've done. Coach Drew's back entering year 16. His son, Jackson, taking over as the starting quarterback. They're looking for their first winning season since 2019. We'll see if that can turn around in the NBC. And now you got something fancy and new on this desk, so cut to the wide shot. Student section of the week
That's
is back.
Birdie.
The brand new belt here on set, and it's looking to come to your school every single Friday. Hashtag SSOTW, brought to you by Unison Health and the Mental Health Board of Lucas County. Send us your best post, get a belt, and keep this thing at the end of the season. And now it is time to close our previews with Taction. You know we love Taction here on the BCSN Nation podcast, and there's a lot of new faces and straight-up new teams in the TAC this year, and one of those new teams, Whiteford, tabbed in the Blade preview to win the TAC. O'Hill's right behind them, a ton of replaced production, and Whiteford looking to bounce back from a not Whiteford season in 2024.
Well, first let me say this about the TAC. I think what they did with the realignment is smart, okay? Because you got similarly sized schools with enrollment. Yeah. You got similar football programs, and then the proximity component. You know, it's difficult when you got to go an hour plus for a in-league, in-conference game. That's not going to be the case. You got Whiteford, Summerfield, and Erie Mason joining the TAC. Northwood is departed the TAC and has gone to the SBC starting this fall. Yep. So you got some shifting and movements. We're going to have some more movement in the Sandusky area here in the coming years. But with this, hats off to them for making sense when sometimes alignment doesn't make a whole lot of sense geographically. It does with these teams.
Definitely.
But Ottawa Hills and Whiteford, I think, are going to be the teams to beat in this one. Some of those other programs just coming off of last year's records don't give me any confidence that they're going to be able to totally turn it around. There could be an improvement, but Ottawa Hills and maybe Eden a little bit there. Yeah. But I think Ottawa Hills and Whiteford.
So Eden, historically, under Bob Olvey, they are kind of Lima Senior-esque in that they spread the field and their quarterbacks throw for thousands and thousands of yards. The last two, Drew Gallahue and Kyler Sapp, have been really, really good. They'll have a new quarterback this year. Whiteford struggles last year. I think you can boil down to just they were young and they were small.
100%.
So they're older and they're bigger this year. Yes. And this is a team that should be more like a recent vintage Whiteford team from the last 15 years or so. And Justin, you're right. Ottawa Hills, they have to replace so much all at once.
Ohioans.
Jeez, they can still win a lot of games potentially in this league. Summerfield will be talented, but they've only got 18 varsity guys. As last I heard, which that's rough to compete in any
league. Good shape.
Yeah, to talk about the glory days. I mean, Ottawa Hills just got through the glory days of the historical program. I'm going deep into the postseason of the regionals. Unprecedented in many, many, many aspects and back-to-back seasons. So hats off what Coach Carter's done.
Mm-hmm. And now it's time. I get to say it again. It is time for our Game of the Week preview brought to you by Dunn Chevy in Oregon. I missed it. Hey, hit it, Cisco. All right, here it is. Big one this Friday. Two state powers meet on Cherry Street. Walsh Jesuit at Central Catholic. D1 prospects aplenty. We've got a BGSU commit from Walsh Jesuit and Caden Carter. We've got a UT commit in safety Grant Blacksack. We've got a 4-star, 6'5" Iowa State commit in Milan Paris, matching up with Victor Singleton and all of the D1 prospects for the Irish.
Yeah, I'll add 6'2" safety. James Brewer going to Ohio University there for that one.
You never miss an OU commit, do you?
Couple of homers I'm at the desk with today.
Oh,
I got the green on.
Yeah,
Gosh dang it.
Absolutely. And a reminder, so both of these teams went deep into the postseason.
Yeah.
Central lost in the state championship. Walsh Jesuit lost to Akron-Hoban in the 4th round, I believe.
Yes.
But keep in mind, OHSA changing course, going backwards to 12 playoff teams in each region, the top 4 seeds getting byes, and then the higher seed gets home field advantage through the first 3 rounds this year. So a game like this, when you're talking about you win this game, you get all those playoff points for the opponent, and you hope really for a head coach, you want to beat a team, and then you want that team to go undefeated the rest of the way because you can accumulate all of those postseason points. But Coach Dempsey, he's been there for 26 years. He told me that this is one of, if not the most difficult schedule in nearly 3 decades on Cherry Street. So keep that in mind. Yes, they got a big offensive line. Yes, they got some top-tier recruits. Preston Frizzell, tight end going to Notre Dame. You mentioned Victor Singleton, Texas A&M. Sherrod Vaughn, UT. Ali Beydoun, question mark there. Maybe last year as a sophomore, I think he got
playoff experience.
A lot of playoff experience. Just physically looking at him, he's matured, he's bigger, he's thicker. Throw a helmet on him, put cleats on him, put shoulder pads. He looks even bigger. So I think good things are coming out of him. This is a 1-year deal, though. So in the contracts in regards to pairing up matchups, this is only a 1-year deal. No return trip for Central to Walsh Jesuit, just FYI. But with 6 to 7 D1 guys on Walsh Jesuit, 13-ish college-level recruits on Central side, this is going to be a star-studded affair. And it'll be interesting. Turnovers and then momentum early, 2 keys.
Yep.
Absolutely. And one of the things I'm looking for here, and by the way, how cool is it that in little old kind of Toledo, Ohio, a place that gets ignored by lots of pockets of the country in terms of high school football talent and really talent in every sport, we know what's up. You've got Iowa State versus Texas A&M in Toledo, Ohio, which is extremely cool. One of the things I'm looking for is, does Victor Singleton get used on offense? Because I think back to a couple years ago when Braden Alls didn't get a ton of offensive snaps, but he was so productive, and he puts the fear of God into opposing secondaries. Victor Singleton, I think, can do that same thing and be the X factor for the offense. The more weapons you can give Ali Beydoun, the better. Obviously, they lose Tyler Morgan, who was such a productive running back, but I really like the Sylvester kid who's back. Jerome Davis always pops. He's a little scat back type, but he's not the only one. They've always got a guy or two. Jeremiah Fuller as well.
Stable of guys.
And look, they don't rebuild, they reload. So what if they lost most of the secondary and all of the defensive line? There have been guys that have been dominating JV and freshman games and playing really, really well in practice, and never discount all the added weeks of practice last year. As good as that is for the guys lining up varsity in the present day, like last year, week 15, it is so beneficial for the guys that are going to step up this year. So even if they've got some youth and inexperience at some key positions, they're going to be fine.
Tell you what, I'll always take Coach Dempsey to get my team ready for a Friday night, especially week 1 when he's had all this time to prepare. Let us know who you think is going to win. Head over to our X page, vote in our Game of the Week poll. Closes Thursday at noon. Let us know who you think is going to win. We'll be right back to wrap this whole preview up. 30 seconds for Buffalo Wild Wings. Hit it, Cisco.
I've saved so much money enjoying Buffalo Wild Wings BOGO half-off traditional Wing Tuesdays. I can finally afford everything I've ever wanted in life. Wings. All I ever wanted was more wings. So yeah, buy one, get one half-off traditional wings is the perfect deal for me and my lifetime yearnings. I value it more than literally anything. Buffalo Wild Wings. Let's go sports bar.
At participating locations, not valid with other offers or discounts. See website or app for details.
Hey, naughty, nah, the games list back. Brought to you by Midas. Here it is, Friday night. We are rocking and rolling. Game day tailgates back. Mason loved that. Justin,
I did.
Matt, and Godfrey hit Central Catholic for the game of the week. And then, of course, Game Day Nation. So you don't miss anything that's happening across all these games and more. Walsh Jesuit, Central Catholic. We talked about it. The battle for Sylvania kicking off in week 1. Weird. We're still getting used to that. But Northview at Southview. Gibsonburg taking on O Hills. Northwood fresh in a non-NBC matchup with Rossford. And then your projected NBC champions taking on Huron over there on BCSN Erie. What a way to start the season.
Yeah, some juicy matchups initially. I think that these games can pay dividends later on down the road. That Gibsonburg-Ottawa Hills matchup has been pretty solid in week one, year over year over year. Northview at Southview, their Mel Nussbaum Stadium is going to be packed. The Battle of Sylvania. I was just told this morning the cheer off between the dance team and the cheerleaders from both squads.
Hey, nice.
Around 5 in advance of kickoff. So just an exciting time to be ready to go.
Ready to go, Mason. I know you're ready to go.
Absolutely. That Ottawa Hills-Gibsonburg game, we'll learn a lot about how far ahead in the rebuild Ottawa Hills is because Gibsonburg's picked to win their league too.
There we go. Huge matchups this Friday. Make sure you're here every single Wednesday for brand new episodes of the BCSN Nation podcast.
Hand it off
Myself,
to Mason.
Justin,
Hand it off.
Mason. We're not throwing him because Mike Rob's not here, but you'll see him on Fridays with Mike Jewell. And until then, see you next Wednesday. Thanks for swinging by.